Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and welcome once again to the epic, sprawling, massive, wicked awesomeness I like to call the Comic Book Vault. Today we're going to continue our epic quest through the history of Tick Comics as much as we can get through within the month of April, and through Tick Month. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I have my spoon because we are indeed going to get into the very scene that establishes the Tick's fateful battle cry in issue 7. Today we're going to be taking a look at Volume 2 of the Tick Omnibus. This one was just like the first one, published in 1995. This is a third printing. This one covers issues 7 through 10. And it has, by the way, some of my favorite covers of the Tick. I really like issue 8 there with the meteorite headed toward Earth. I think that's one of Ben Edlund's best covers. And so, just like we did last time, we're going to go ahead and start with the preface of this book, and then we're going to get right into the story. This is some of the strangest work so far. I think that there's a lot more bizarreness going on in this one, and I think that the writing is a little tighter in a lot of places, and Ben Edlund has even a better sense of continuity than he did in the first 6 issues. But boy, this gets weird, and even too weird for my taste in certain places. But the Tick makes a lot of allies, he makes a lot of enemies, and I think his allies are stranger even than his enemies. We get to see Arthur really tested in his endurance on how he's going to handle the strangeness of the Tick. And I would say that a lot of this is Ben Edlund's attempt at seeing what bizarre things he can come up with that are even stranger and more insane than the Tick, to try to make the Tick look a little more sane, or at the very least, more palatable. So now let's go ahead and read the preface. And we're doing this once again so that those of you that don't get a chance to get this book, even if you've read the single issues, or even if you don't get to read these at all, we'll get to hear a little bit about Ben Edlund and get into his mindset a little bit from when he had just finished writing these. So here we go. This, again, written by Ben Edlund. 2 minutes ago, I finished writing the author's preface, or whatever these are, for the collected Paul the Samurai trade paperback thing. The tumbling incidental fall of circumstance has made it necessary to write them both at the same time. I usually look upon these few paragraphs as opportunities to say something independent of the structured dialogue and narrative presence in the comics themselves. I view it as the one place where I can tell people who read my work how I feel about it and them, and about myself. It's a me update, so it feels unnatural and contrived to write 2 of them at once, but here we are. I feel okay about life and living. Some people don't. I know, and that's pretty bad. People who feel bad or worse about themselves or their lives sometimes do terrible things. We all do terrible things on occasion, and other times do nothing to stop terrible things that happen, or that happen or are made to happen all around us. There is murder. That's pretty bad. And rape, and all sorts of other abuses and injustices we've fought up. There is stealing and lying and corruption. I've developed a theory about politics that might help. It has an H. Ross Perot flair for video government. It is this. We the people set up a cable access channel for our nation that constantly switches to hundreds of different live video hookups throughout the country. Each hookup consists of a video camera aimed at the office, bedroom, or bathroom of every political position of power in our government. The cameras would constantly switch on and off, and occasionally would transmit their image to a satellite and then out across the United States. So to be part of American theater of politics, every politician would have to accept the possibility that the nation might see him or her with their pants around their ankles, in the grips of our most sincere and basic function as human beings. In addition to peopling our administration with governmental power and the occasional exhibitionist, it would, by example, make our culture more tolerant of our own base humanity. Wouldn't life be grand? This is a collection of the most recent 4 issues of the Tick. I feel like things are really going with this comic book at the very time when most parodies start losing their inspiration. If you don't agree, that's fine. But I see the Tick as becoming less and less parody-oriented in every issue, and that is good. I'm not sure why I started doing parody comics in the first place, but they certainly have been kind to me. Soon the 11th issue will be out, late once again, and although it will appear to be a return to the root of the series, I think it hasn't. So there. Have a good time with this, and pass it around. And I think it's very interesting because in fact, my first thought when I read this was, wow, this seems to be going a little bit back to the meandering structure of the first couple issues. But I can see what he's talking about, and we'll talk about that a little bit as we get into this. So that gives you a little bit more of an insight into Ben Edlund and his way of thinking, and I think that you can hear quite a bit of the Tick's voice in what he's writing there, and kind of how he looks at life and society and culture and politics and those sorts of things. And it's very interesting to find that the Tick is not just some bizarre thing he made up and found a voice for, but there is quite a bit of Ben Edlund in the Tick. And I think that it's he's such an imaginative person. It's very fascinating to get into his head. So let's go ahead and jump right into issue 7 here. And the very first thing you notice right center in the page is the Earth, the Moon, and a chair. And if you know anything about the Tick, you know where this is going. So here we meet Angus Maguire. He's a secret agent who's been working for some potentially non-existent government agency since the 1950s, and he has on his arm a wrist TV radio that he's supposed to be able to use to contact the agency that employs him, but they haven't talked to him since the 50s, and he claims that they're just being kind of on the down low and not talking to him, and you kind of wonder what that's all about, and if he's kind of a crazy person, like you wonder with most of the characters in the Tick. So what happens here is Angus Maguire figures out. Let's wait here for our presenter to come back. Sometimes it pops out. Angus Maguire has figured out that there's this giant conglomeration of supervillains happening, and some of them have names like Eyebrow Smith and Harriet Curse, and they're all coming together, and he's trying to figure out what exactly is going on, and they're all being pulled together by Chippendale, and he's not given the name Chairface yet, just Chippendale, and so that's going to be a big reveal later on, that he's got a big chair for his head. So then we cut over to the Tick, and the Tick has got his spoon, and he's decided that his battle cry is going to be Spoon, and Arthur, just like in the animated series, he kind of says, I don't get it. Why is that your battle cry? I just like the sound of that word. And the only thing he regrets is that he didn't come up with it when he was fighting the Red Scare. So he ends up teaming up with Angus Maguire. The Tick decides he's got to go out for Pez. Which is one of my favorite bits in really all of the Tick, because the Tick and I have something in common. We both really love Pez. In fact, I should have brought a Pez dispenser for this. I wish I'd done that. I have Pez dispensers, and I love Pez. Anyway, so the Tick meets Angus Maguire on a fateful night when he Thursday. By the way, it's Thursday. I should point that out, because he actually. Here. Thursday and infinitum is what it says at the bottom of this. See, if you'll recall, the first omnibus the first 6 issues went from Sunday to Wednesday, and it is now Thursday. So we are so far continuing on to that, but you'll realize, of course, that when we get into the later issues of this, we'll get into infinitum, and we get well away from that structure very quickly. So anyway, while going out trying to find Pez, he finds Angus Maguire, who says, "Are you a superhero?" And he says, "Yes." And good. I need a superhero to help me out, and so he just recruits the Tick solely based on the fact that he's wearing a costume, or seems to be wearing a superhero costume. And so they decide to go and spy on Chairface's party and try to figure out what exactly he's trying to do. And they pose as caterers, which is just how the Tick poses in the animated show. You'll find, if you know the cartoon and you know this episode, the Tick versus Chairface. If you know that episode, you'll find that a lot of the plot points in this are straight out of the comics, or the plot points of that show are straight out of the comics. But the difference, of course, is that he goes there with American Maid and also with Arthur, and not with this Angus Maguire character. And so, just like what happens there, they end up getting in a big fight, and then they get tied up, and they're put over a pit of crocodiles and cows. and apparently man-eating cows. However, Chairface doesn't realize that the alligators will eat all the cows, and the alligators eat all the cows, and then one of them happens to escape. And we'll get to the escaped cow in just a little bit. Again, if you know the Tick, you know where this is going. The Chairface reveals, we have this big reveal that Chairface is a man with a chair for his head. And then we get a big reveal of what his master plan is. And his master plan has nothing to do with world domination, but in fact, it's to commit the ultimate act of vandalism, which is to write his name on the moon. Probably one of the ideas that made me, when I was a kid, fall in love with the Tick, because I just thought that this was such a hilarious, absurd thing for a supervillain to do. And by the way, in the comics, it's sure about time that we have a real supervillain. In the Omnibus, we had, in Volume 1 of the Omnibus, the first 6 issues, we had ninjas, and then we had the Red Scare, who wasn't really a supervillain, just a hired out guy to pretend he was a supervillain. Now we have a real supervillain. And, of course, we don't even have a world domination plot yet. He just wants to write his name on the moon, so everybody will remember him. And, of course, the Tick and Angus Maguire managed to stop him. You'll notice a few familiar faces here if you know the cartoon and you don't know this. There's Professor Chrome Dome, who runs the big gun to write Chairface's name on the moon for him. And we also saw the forehead in a previous page. He's in here somewhere. Anyway, so moving right along, so they stop Chairface. Chairface goes to jail, and one of the things that Tick and Angus Maguire make sure of is that the papers do not say anywhere whose master plan this was, because Chairface manages only to get the C and the H and part of the A on the moon, just like in the cartoon, and they play this terrible prank on Chairface where all of these newspapers guess that all of these different people might be in charge. You see one of these. Is it Chad? Charlie? Who is it? And it makes Chairface all the more enraged. And he says, "You'll both pay dearly for this. Case closed for now." And so Chairface is ready to get revenge. And the Tick has made his first major enemy. And that's pretty much it for issue 7. Well, besides the establishment of the man-eating cow. And so then we get into issue 8, where the man-eating cow has gotten away. It's the only cow that survived, and they're going to do some things with with her a little bit later. And then comes the Asteroid, and this is one of those really strange, bizarre things where it's difficult to understand where he's going with it right away, or really at all within the Omnibus. But the Tick gets smacked in the head with a meteor. And it comes down. By the way, you see this brilliant shot of the moon with the ultimate act of vandalism partially on it. And the Tick gets clunked in the head with an asteroid, and he makes all these crazy theories of where it could possibly have come from. And we find Arthur's penchant for wonder and possibilities. It's one of the things that really separates him from other characters in the book, and helps us understand why why he's so interested in adventure. He says this is amazing. This kind of things never happens. What are the odds? Of course, later on, they're going to be told by a scientist that the asteroid actually didn't come from outer space, but in fact was just from Utah, and we'll see whether or not that actually is true. So then we have this strange part where the Tick is reading the superhero handbook by the Sultan, and he's this guy who's just like totally full of himself and is trying to explain how you're supposed to be a superhero. And not very much is done with this right here, but it's at least worth mentioning. This is where they find out that the asteroid is apparently just from Utah. They don't really believe it, but there it is. And Arthur decides, hey, we should go ahead and go to New York. The Tick has been talking about going to New York, and there's not much for them left in the city right now, and so they decide to go ahead and take a road trip. Let me see if I'm missing some bits before this. Oh, no. Here we go. So Arthur already is interested in going to New York. I'm sorry, I'm wrong. I'm making things up. This is the bit where the Tick says, let's go to New York. A little bit later, Arthur's going to go ahead and agree with him after his apartment gets pretty much demolished. We'll get to that in a minute. I apologize. Then we meet the Tick's, then we meet Arthur's sister, Dot. And Dot is thinking that Arthur is crazy for constantly wearing the suit, wanting to be a superhero, and this bit is done a little bit in the live-action series where Dot comes over and Arthur tells the Tick to behave, and that his sister doesn't like this superhero stuff, and the Tick, in both places, this is one of my favorite lines, says, I shall suppress my every urge, and of course he is not able to do that even kind of. So Dot suggests somewhere in here that Arthur go ahead and commit himself to the same asylum that the Tick did, and was in at the beginning of way back in issue 1. And the Tick says, "No, Arthur, don't do it. It's boring, boring, boring." At one point in this, the Tick picks up a random comic book off the street that he finds. Ooh, free comic, and he picks up this thing. It's called Red Eye, and it's this kind of noirish comic about this kind of horror comic, rather, about this scary guy who can make you do anything and possibly kill you just by looking at you. And that's going to play up a little bit later on. So. Then what goes down is these people hired by Chairface start shooting at the Tick's apartment, at Tick and Arthur's apartment, trying to get back at the Tick for what he did to Chairface. And so what seems to be a completely unrelated story is already connecting back to that last issue. And the Tick gets shot in the teeth, and once again, because he's nigh invulnerable, it does nothing to him. And this is where the stop sign thing happens. Sometimes you'll see pictures of the Tick with a stop sign, and in fact, recently there was an action figure made of the Tick, and one of his accessories, I think his one big accessory is a stop sign, and this is where that comes from, where he's outside, and he runs out and he starts just hurling things from the street at these people firing from the other side. And they have the secret weapon, and they're trying to read. It's this fun parody of the villain's secret weapon, where they have this great weapon that should just destroy everything right there, but they don't know how to use it, and they're trying to read the instructions, and it's just not working out. It's very clever. And then here comes the man-eating cow to save the day, and she eats them. The man-eating cow seems to be kind of, sort of, maybe a superhero, in that she eats people, but she only eats villains. You never seem to see her eat anyone who is not established as a horrible wrongdoer. So that's absolutely hilarious, at least if you like morbid comedy at all. So then Arthur says, yeah, let's go to New York. He can't stand it anymore, and he wants to go ahead and go to New York. And the Tick says, all right, Arthur. And he at first he thinks, oh no, I'm going to leave the city behind that I swore to protect. That's okay. I'll leave the man-eating cow behind. And I've not read the man-eating cow comics yet. My assumption is that as the Tick is gone, that's when the man-eating cow comics start. So we'll see if that's the case and what happens with those. There are several of those actually, the spin-off man-eating cow comics, and so I've not read those yet, and we'll get into those later on if we can get our hands on them. So now we get into the Tick's hilarious, horrifying nightmare. Every now and again, you get a bit in the Tick that seems to maybe tell us a little bit about his background through just strange revelations he has, and then again maybe not. The Tick has this horrifying nightmare where he stopped existing for 8 months. And it just kind of makes you wonder if maybe he either stopped existing for 8 months at some point, somehow, or lost his memory, or what exactly happened there. So constantly furthering the mystery of the Tick, or potentially just the Tick making stuff up and making us think that's what's going on. So now we go on to the road trip, and this is where things start getting really, really bizarre. The first thing that happens is just before they leave the city, these people come out of nowhere that the Tick recognizes who used to be with him in the insane asylum. And when he broke out, they all managed to escape because there was a big gaping hole in the asylum and they all just ran off. And so now they have become the Tick Society. They are the Society for the Tick, and they've decided that they're gonna worship the Tick. And it's bizarre and quite hilarious. And the Tick makes this really great speech where he says, "Always remember, less is less, more is more is better, and twice as much is good too." And then he goes on and on in his Tick-like speech way. So once again, finding that there are potentially people even crazier than the Tick, but also that the Tick is you know, in one way or another influencing everybody he comes across. Are these people worshiping the Tick because of the great things that he's done that they've heard about, or is it just because they're crazy and they're glad to be out of an insane asylum? You be the judge. So now Arthur makes the worst decision anybody could ever possibly make, and that's giving the Tick a map to help them navigate. There's this great panel where they seem to drive off a bridge because the Tick is using a map from 1959 and keeps quoting highways that don't exist anymore. And then, oh no, they've flown off a bridge, and then then he screams. And then in the next panel, the Tick says, "Oh, what's your problem, pal?" And Arthur says, "Nothing, just a momentary vision of futures possible." I love that. Ben Edlund is really really a comic genius. And then we get the Tick's big log where he talks about being on the road and being with Arthur and enjoying being lost and having no idea where they're going. I love that he uses the word grok. I grok it. Arthur on the other side of the corpus callosum does not. This is the Tick is somewhat of an acquired taste, and also not necessarily for everybody's kind of sense of humor. But I like a lot of it. This is pretty soon going to start getting even too weird for me, however, as the Tick and Arthur, as they're going around trying to find gas and trying to get to New York, they go to the desert, and Arthur's like, "We shouldn't be in the desert, I'm seeing cacti, and we're trying to go to New York." And then they run into, what I was going to say is, eventually here they're going to run into this really bizarre small town. But before that happens, they get to a really fun part where, this is, by the way, not the part that is too weird even for my taste. I really like this part, where I just forgot that we were getting here right at this point, where the Tick has to pretty soon go up against the Chainsaw Vigilante. But first, the Chainsaw Vigilante is going to fight the Civic-Minded Five, who you'll notice are not the same characters that they are in the animated series, and I'm not entirely sure why they changed them, because none of them seem really too all that not kid-friendly, unless Ben Edlund just decided that he liked some other characters more. In the first issue, by the way, I meant to mention this before in the earlier video, we have Mucilage Man, who is later renamed in the animated series Captain Mucilage, but he looks exactly the same and seems to have the same personality. He's part of the Civic-Minded Five in the cartoon, but here it's these other people, including this Envelope guy and Mr. Envelope and Radio King and Fern Slinger and Feral Boy. And Feral Boy is the only one of the five who we saw in the cartoon show, and he's the only one that it seems to me like you might want to change, just because Feral Boy just doesn't seem like an especially kid-friendly thing, but that's the one they kept. Maybe that was an on-purpose kind of irony. Anyway, Chainsaw Vigilante's whole deal is superheroes are silly and strange, and they're wasting their lives when there's other people to do that job. They're wearing dumb costumes. What's wrong with them? So he is a parody of superheroes. It's a parody within a parody, and his whole deal is he wants to stop superheroes from being superheroes, and that's his whole vigilante thing. So he's this kind of strange contradiction where he's a vigilante trying to stop wearing a costume, trying to stop people from being vigilantes. He also has on his back he has a jacket, and on his back it says "Kick Yourself," which really cracks me up. I really want to make this costume and cosplay this at some point. I think it's a really fun costume. So yeah, that's the Chainsaw Vigilante, and he goes up against the Civic-Minded 5, and he's stopped by the Tick, and he can't destroy the Tick because like all villains or whoever he ends up fighting figures out, he's nigh invulnerable. And it cracks me up, by the way, because they always say nigh invulnerable, like, you know, they would think of that on their own, and like that's just a thing in this universe. There's invulnerable, and then there's nigh invulnerable, and so he says resistance is silly, and he goes after the Tick, but of course the Tick wins, and he's going to declare revenge on the Tick. So now we have the Tick's second big enemy that he's made that's going to come back and make problems for him later on. Next, what ends up happening is the Tick is called to by the meteorite, and we find out the meteorite really is from space, and that there are these little creatures inside that are aliens, and it's two different factions, one a benevolent society and one a terrible dictatorship society, and they all need the Tick's help for some reason, and that's really all we know about them so far. So then moving on, we get to this we get to this strange town after after Arthur's car stops working and the Tick has to kind of haul it along. And by the way, you can see just in these panels how manic Arthur is starting to get. He's getting insane, driving all over the country, not knowing where he's going, having to deal with the strangeness of the Tick. The Tick won't stop talking. He's not talking about anything in particular. He's like me. He just won't stop talking. And then they get to this bizarre town with the monolith. It's called Monolith because there's a big monolith. And the first bizarre thing that we find is that they have a particle accelerator because the monolith makes them all really smart and they're able to do all these amazing things, but it also makes them crazy. And so the Tick, the Tick is asked by some of them to let them do experiments on him, and he's like, okay, sure, whatever. And of course Arthur's like, no, that's a terrible idea. But then Arthur ends up getting mind controlled by one of the locals. And anyway, this is the super bizarre part. The Red Eye shows up just out of nowhere. My assumption is that the comic book is based on reality somehow, and so the Red Eye shows up, and at first you think it's kind of a dream sequence, but then it turns out that he's actually there, and he starts mind controlling Arthur to be crazy, and then he just wants a ride. It seems like all he really wants is a ride, and then the Tick is just irritating, and the guy walks away. The end. That's the whole. he just starts messing with him, and he does the whole "got your nose" thing, and Red Eye leaves, and that's it. That's all that happens there. So then, like I said, we get into this part where Arthur gets drugged, and he starts he ends up going outside while the Tick is about to be experimented on, and he starts getting all these great ideas for world domination and things like that because he gets affected by the monolith, which makes everybody smart but nuts. And then once again we get this whole, oh no, he's nigh invulnerable, because everybody comes up with that phrase on their own. And then the machine that they're trying to experiment with the Tick on blows up, and it throws the Tick out into a field, and he breaks the monolith in half. And then Arthur is no longer super smart, and he gets very angry at the Tick for doing that just for a minute, until he realizes, of course, that this monolith thing was a terrible idea, and that man was not meant for these kinds of powers. The idea seems to be that maybe it's not the monolith that makes people crazy. Maybe just having that much power and knowledge automatically makes people crazy because they just weren't meant to have it. And so there's this great moment where the Tick says, well, maybe I should just throw it into space. And Arthur's like, can you do that? He's like, sure. And he lunges it, and because he's so strong, you would expect it to just go straight into space, it being a comic book. But of course, Ben Edlund takes it back to parody, and the monolith just kind of falls on the ground and thuds. And the tick says, well, that must be enough out of the way. It won't bother anyone. And Arthur says, yeah, sure. And that's it. So then we get back to these the meteorite thing, which doesn't really go anywhere. And and that's my wife in a Catwoman suit. I guess that was the next picture on this in this file. Anyway, yes. So you got to see my wife in a Catwoman suit. That was pretty much. Wow. This is a strange review. That's pretty much it. We kind of end off in a cliffhanger here with you know, the Chainsaw Vigilante. He's all angry with the tick. He's going to come back later and make trouble, and we're not real sure where this meteorite thing is going, if anywhere. The aliens and the meteorite say, "Don't tell Arthur," and then the tick tells Arthur, and Arthur ends this with, "Yeah, right." And Horton hears a who. He doesn't even believe him. Well, that's it for volume 2 of the Omnibus. Wow, I'm tired. The Omnibus, and I'll be back with you for volume 3 here very shortly, and lots of other tick reviews. We're gonna be doing some stuff on the shows. We're gonna be talking about lots of other tick related things that aren't even comics. So stay tuned for that for Tick Month. Thanks a lot for watching. Hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm Captain Logan. Remember, of course, that the Comic Book Vault is a vast and wondrous wonderland of comic books that you can buy things from and donate things to. If you want to see what we have available right now in the Comic Book Vault, you can go to wearegeeksnotnerds.com, click on the Comic Book Vault, and that'll show you all of our current eBay auctions. We've got lots of fun stuff on right now, including a big Flash lot from the early 90s when the Flash TV show was on. And you can also donate things if you want me to see me review anything, either coherently or not. You can go to Geekvolution, P.O. Box 14183, Lenexa, Kansas 66285. That's our P.O. Box. Once again, thanks a whole lot for watching. I'm Captain Logan, and happy reading.